Okay, everyone, welcome. Welcome to our webinar. I'm very excited about this presentation today. I personally love the chance to talk with our customers and hear about the real world experiences that they're having with the Netomi AI platform. So we do these webinars really to help you understand what would it be like to work with Netomi and give you a firsthand glimpse into the how the process goes. And today we're talking with the team from Megabus. So Megabus is one of the largest operators of inner city bus service in North America. Colin, I hope I did describe that correctly. And all of their bookings are done online. So it is absolutely critical that they have fast, responsive customer service. And that's what motivated them to start looking at AI solutions to help automate those customer service responses. And that's going to be our topic for today. So let me first introduce our speakers. So first up, we have Colin Emerson. He is the VP of Retail, although when he described his job to me, it seemed like he had 4 different jobs. So Colin, thanks for coming on. I know you're a very busy guy.
Happy to be here.
Great. And I also am welcoming Letitia Bray. She is the head of customer support at Megabus and has really been in the trenches with the Netomi team on both choosing a solution, but then implementing the solution. So Letitia, welcome. Glad to have you with us. Oh, Letitia, you are on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
There we go. All right, welcome.
Glad to be here, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah. So, of course, I should have advanced the slides so you could see their pictures, but of course, you can see the video anyway. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, actually, before I do, if you've got questions, go ahead and type them into the Q&A box. And there's actually a giveaway here. If we're going to give away 5 Google Minis to the best 5 questions as judged by my colleague, Dylan. The 5 best questions that are asked on the webinar. So get yourself a new toy for yourself or maybe one of your children simply by asking a good question here today on the webinar. And you can do that in the Q&A box. So let's jump into our discussion. Let's start off by talking about the situation at Megabus at the beginning of 2020. So this was before you had decided to implement AI. And I wonder if either of you could talk about the business conditions that Megabus was seeing, back in early 2020.
Sure. So we had early 2020, where we was on the back end of quite a lot of effort and time and just focus on improving our customer experience. And some of the things we were seeing was our NPS, our overall customer satisfaction, numbers really improving, but also one of the lowest rates of customer contacts, which the way we envision things is a frictionless journey for our customers, and as much as we're happy to be there to help when needed, our vision is that it's not needed. And as you mentioned, everything's online and it's quick and easy, and you can buy your tickets, get on the bus, and get to where you need to go. So we had made some really good strides. And then as we all know, last March when the pandemic hit, if you can imagine, almost everybody that had bookings for the future, which was, definitely in the tens of thousands of people, middle of March, everything happened, and almost all of them probably around the same time, the same day, picked up the phone and started asking questions. What do I do about my trip tomorrow, next week, next month, 2 months from now? And that really, really set us back in terms of volume, but really kind of started a cyclical kind of perfect storm, if you will, where our phone lines were inundated, as was our email. And if somebody contacted us one channel, they then moved on to the other. And it really kicked things off. And really, we had made some really good strides, and even in years past, looked at how we handle things like blizzards and weather, and how we make that process simpler and more self-serve. And what really highlighted here was not so much with COVID, but just the other than big time events, how do we bring that self-serve, that instant response to the day-to-day?
Yeah, and that's what stood out for me in the conversation that you and I had earlier. is, you had the same customer now because they weren't getting a response. They would contact you again and again and again. So it really wasn't even that many more issues out there. I mean, there were more issues, but then it was multiplied and amplified by the fact that the same person would contact you not only multiple times, but in multiple channels, is what I heard you say. Yeah. So the potential ability to respond instantly to these things has that sort of double effect of reducing contacts per customer, as well as just issues in general that are built up. Okay. And one of the things that you said to me, and I don't think you mentioned this, was just in your understanding of your customers' satisfaction level, really tied, highly correlated to response time. Because I'm traveling and I need an answer. It's your customer base seems to be very, very sensitive to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Certainly, if you can imagine, if you ask a question today about your trip this afternoon, us answering you tomorrow really does no good. So the instantaneous, being able to respond as quickly as needed is huge.
Yeah, that's just the nature of your business, where like if you're not responsive, you miss the boat, is what I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So as you moved forward, I want to talk about a little bit about the decision process. Oops, I'm trying to advance the screen. There we go. So let's talk a little bit about your decision process, and I'll give you the floor. But what did the decision process look like? What was important to you? How did that roll out for you?
Yeah. So it was definitely, we looked at all sorts of different options, but the main idea was, how do we get, self-serve, real time, very fast responses to customers? How do we do that, with a tool or a company or partner that has experience in travel? Not only that they've done it, but that they've had great success.
Mm-hmm.
And just as important was, what's the effort level to get there? How quickly, what goes into managing it? Is it, a lot of heavy lifting on our side? On the other side, what does all that look like? And that's what definitely led us to Netomi.
Yeah, and I'm just looking down at some of my notes that you shared with me, and it was the travel industry experience that for you was an important one. Like, do they understand our business? And I think the one that you told me was WestJet. Which is a big customer of ours. So we've worked with, and this is more for the audience than you, Colin and Letitia, but we've worked with WestJet for a number of years, and over time have created an even bigger footprint for the AI within their organization, and now they're getting amazing metrics of handling 40% of their inquiries at only 2% of the cost of the call center, and then now coming back to you guys. And this is what you were after, because you had a lot of phone calls, and everybody on the call knows that phone calls are expensive and time consuming and all of that. So for you, that was, I think, one of the things that you shared with me. Yeah, and the ease of implementation. Forgive me if you said this, because my sound cut out for a second, but what I wrote down is we signed the contract with you on May 20th, if I recall. And then you were up and running in very early in July. So really not much, just a few weeks later, you guys were up and running. And that was a key enticing feature of the solution, was that you could get up and running pretty fast, is what I remember you telling me.
Definitely. As we kind of touched on, we needed help, and we needed it today, type thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the speed of the getting up and running was excellent to talk about and led us to the decision, but even better that it was the reality. And like you said, we were up and running in July.
And Letitia, what was that like for you in those days? Because Colin just said, it's like, we need help and we need it now. And you're on the front lines with your team, and you guys were, you're probably burning the candle at both ends, I'm imagining. So what was that situation before the AI like for you and the team?
Absolutely, Greg. I mean, if I think back to the beginning of 2020, when the pandemic first hit and everything was happening, it felt like our world came crashing down on us. We had so many contacts. We didn't have enough people to get to churn through the contacts. And then you guys brought up a good point of what I like to call ghost volume. When you don't respond to the customer, they keep on finding ways to try to get a response. So it really makes your volume look like it's increased when in fact it's really just the one customer who's trying to get, contact you 10 times, whether it's phone, email, they go around and around trying to get a response. So we were being buried basically in these questions. Being in the travel industry, we were highly affected by the pandemic. Everybody wanted to know what to do, how can they get what they wanted to cancel their tickets or a refund or reschedule, or they didn't know what to do at that point. And they needed our help. So implementing Netomi around that time really, really, really relieved us of a lot of that ghost volume. Whereas Netomi was able to get at, was able to answer the first level of customer inquiries in regards to cancellations and to reschedules, so that our team, who was unfortunately we were at a low, we had to let go of a lot of people because of the pandemic, so we were understaffed. So it allowed them to concentrate on the higher level type of inquiries that we were getting.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I love ghost volume. I've never heard that phrase before, but if you
I
made that up,
but that's what it is to me. It's not volume. It's one customer trying all avenues to get a response from us.
Yeah, I like that. Trademark it before everybody else does. Okay, so you made the decision to automate. You made the decision to go with Netomi. You did make an interesting decision to automate to maintain email as your primary channel. Well, actually, I should rephrase that. Phone was always your primary channel, and you always had email, but you wanted to shift volume from phone to email. And in today's environment, people are sometimes pretty enamored with chat. They think, oh, chat, we'll get in, we'll get out, it'll end this thing. But you guys chose to stick with email, at least initially, and we'll talk about the future later. But you chose to go with email as the customer service channel you started to push people towards. Will you talk to me about that decision to initially start with email?
Sure. I think the main reason behind it was other than phone, it was an existing, very frequently used channel, and certainly one that this time last year was even more used than it had been. So while we do have ambitions and thoughts to expand out to other channels in the future, it was kind of, where do we need the help right now? What are we doing today? Let's make sure what we're doing today is as best as it possibly can be before we open up into new channels. And that covers it there.
Yeah, I remember what you guys told me on our prep call was just like, we already have email. Our customers are already using email. Why would we want to force a change on them? Why don't we take email and make it work really well? Because that's what our customers are used to. So instead of sort of dictating to our customers, let's follow their lead of what they're already used to, and improve what we have. That was sort of my takeaway from that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And so let's talk a little bit about the goals for AI. So you said, oh golly, we've got to automate, and so we make a choice to automate, and now we've got it. We're about to move into the implementation process, and you guys went through a very thorough process. But what were some of the goals that you had? As you envision a really great outcome from the implementation, what did you guys have in your business planning meetings that was talked about?
Do you want to start off with that one, Leticia?
Well, I know one of the biggest goals that we wanted to focus on was converting those phone calls into emails. And a big way to do that was to get our response out to the customer as soon as possible. I think before we implemented Netomi, we had a response time of 3 business days, which to us was really good and an actual improvement on where we were, but wasn't ideal. If we think about customer service nowadays, and I know, Colin, you bring up Uber a lot, or even somebody like Amazon, where you email customer service, you get a response and the resolution right away. And we think that that's what our customers and people in general are used to and what they expect. 3 business days in 2020, 2021 is eons. Customers want a response now. They want it as soon as they ask the question. So, if they're not going to get that by emailing you, they're going to call you. So in order to be able to stop phone calls into our call centers, which, are, very costly, we wanted to get higher response or faster response times. And in implementing Netomi helped us achieve that.
Mhm. Yeah, Letitia, I remember, I don't remember if you guys said this or if this was my sort of synthesis of it, but you wanted to move more people to email, but if without the automation, you guys might not have been fully capable of handling all the email inflow. So you wouldn't necessarily put the CTA buttons, the email CTA buttons, in more places on the site, because then it would encourage more people, but then you wouldn't be ready for it. And so my takeaway was the automation then helped you say, oh, now we can put this email CTA in more places and accelerate the pushing of people from phone to email. And I did a little screen capture, and this was what I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a contact us page, which of course is, one or two levels down. I think this is one level down. And with the automation, you were able now to then add it to the homepage, because, and of course, this is the most prominent place to put it, on the hero image of the homepage. But with automation now, you can put it in the highest visibility place on the website and be able to quickly handle the inflow. In fact, almost instantly handle the inflow. That was my synthesis of what I heard you guys say about this process.
Yeah, that was a big opportunity, a big change for us. And being able to use other technology on our website to identify somebody that is experiencing some friction, and when's the right time to fire up that messaging that, hey, Chuck's here to help. And for those that don't know, our little mascot there at the bottom of the screen, we refer to him as Chuck. But Chuck is there to help, and for the most part, for the basic everyday questions, we'll get back to you in a matter of seconds. So that was really, really important for us to be able to be more proactive and reach out and prompt people when we think they might be having, they might have the need to ask us a question and things of that nature. So
yeah.
Really big change for us.
Yeah, thanks for explaining Chuck too. I realized I hadn't explained what the heck that was. And also, you said you needed to do more with less, because Letitia, you already said that you had to let some people go because of the impact of the pandemic. So it's like, wait a minute, we have less people to do more tickets. And I imagine there's a lot of people on this call that were in the same exact situation. It's just an impossible situation that you're put into. And you guys were, you were pretty audacious. You said, the heck with that. We're going to improve our efficiency and increase, our customer experience. So we're going to we can really improve on both at the same time. And that was one of the things you thought you could do with automation. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll keep going. So that was the screenshots I showed. So I'm going to take a little poll here. So bear with me while I bring the poll up. So let's, I want to ask the audience about channels. So let me launch this poll. So which customer service channels would you want to offer your customers, to automate over the next, say, 2 years? So Megabus went with the choice to lead with email, and they did that because as we said, that's what their customers were already using. So why change? But I'm curious to what you guys out in the audience would do. Now, this is not just the first one. This is the aggregate. So you can, I set this up so you could choose multiple. So please choose multiple. This is very interesting. Yeah. I'll share these in a second. The responses are still coming in. Got a few left. Come on, everybody. Let's, all right. Okay. So this is interesting. I love this. I'm going to share the results here just so everybody sees it. So what we see is that 53% of you would be wanting to automate email, which I think is a great choice. One of the things that, chat is sexy. It's quick. It's there. You get in and out, but it's not asynchronous. And some people don't want to sit there and wait for the answer. They actually want to fire off an email and then go get lunch or go do something else. And so there are a lot of people who are in what I call asynchronous situations. So the ability to have chat and email, which is very reflected by these poll results, I think is very powerful. So to the audience, don't overlook email as a customer service channel. There's especially a certain demographic where they're much more used to email. and usually age related probably, and where chat seems a little maybe more daunting. So interesting results. Okay. Let me just close these out and we'll continue here. Okay. All right, now let's check in. How did it go? There's sort of the ideas and aspirations, but the actual implementation, let's talk about how that went for you guys. And I think one of the first things you talked to us about was the data analysis was very easy. You guys talked about what you really liked, or at least this is what I heard, was you know, the fact that Netomi's got an AI tool that will take all of your historical ticket data and analyze it and tell you which use cases or types of inquiries are repeatable and probably automatable. But you match that up with your intuition, because you know we can't just leave it to the machine, you know, matching it up with your intuition. And you guys expressed that was a very smooth process for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We really took the lead in helping us analyze the data, see what were our frequently asked questions and which out of those questions can be automated. All we had to do was simply provide the templated responses, and then Netomi implemented them in the studio and worked with us on training the bot, took the lead on training the bot, really. So really the heavy lifting on our part was providing the responses to Netomi that we already had in the bank. So it was very easy and seamless implementing Netomi.
Yeah, and your Letitia, your voice cut out a little bit. It got better right at the end, but
Sorry.
that's okay. I'll share what part of what you said. So one of the things that Netomi does very, very well is we've got an AI tool that automatically analyzes all of your data at first. Now, there are a lot of AI companies out there that will look at your data for you, but they're actually doing it manually. So to do it in an automated fashion is quite frankly, it's just way more accurate and faster. And so we take all that heavy lifting. We don't ask you what your top 10 questions are. We tell you what the data says, so you don't have to go and try to recreate what you think the top 10 questions are. We automate all that and do the training. And then Letitia, as you said, the most effort for our customer, which in this case, Megabus, is mapping the responses. So if a question comes in, you categorize that question as, this is a refund question. Then what is the response? And that is where we Netomi will sit with the customer, and the customer is most involved in mapping those responses because it's how they want to respond to this type of question. And as Letitia said, because they already had those really worked out, it was just a matter of kind of connecting dots of things that were already there. And Letitia, I think you said you like the balance of self-serve versus Netomi. Like Netomi handled a lot of the heavy lifting, but there was some, because AI Studio is pretty straightforward. The balance between self-serve and what we do and what you do was nice, because you didn't have to wait for us for everything. You could make tweaks to the training or the responses as you go without any involvement from us, if that's what you wanted.
Right. And forgive me if I come across as spotty. My internet is in and out since I'm upfront. But yes, that is the case. It's very easy to work with AI Studio. You can go in there. We can add our own templates. We can edit templates. There's some things that we do have to work with Netomi in editing, but Netomi is very quick to respond. They get it done immediately. So yeah, we like working in the AI Studio. We like that it's self-serve. We like that we can, just get things done immediately. But if we do have to forward or escalate to Netomi for any reason, we like that they're very quick in responding and resolving anything that comes up.
Great.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
All right.
I think when you lean forward, it gets better for whatever reason.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's keep going. So the metrics. So that was, I think we just had a qualitative discussion about how the implementation went. So let's talk about the impact on metrics. And you guys said, hey, our NPS is higher than ever, really. Maybe that just is a full statement, but is there anything you'd want to add to that?
No, I think it's certainly there's lots of things we've done on our product on the road and what's out there, but certainly what's been more important than ever in the last year is, we've heard from our customers more than we ever have. So making sure we're there to answer has absolutely played a big part in making sure we're putting the best product that we can out there, and we're thrilled to see our NPS where it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and not surprising given what we said earlier, the nature of your industry, the business that you're in requires responsivity even more than some other industries. So no surprise there. More importantly, the shift to email is happening, and I had a chart here. I'll say for the audience. Colin and Letitia had asked me to take off the metrics, the numbers, because that's just their sort of proprietary information. So I'm showing more of the trend here. But the percentage of, I'll interpret this, but it's pretty much what the title says. The percentage of contacts that come in via email, so of a percentage of overall contacts, so phone plus email, has doubled, really. And that was, you guys were pretty pleased with that result. And this one, it'll continue to grow, certainly as you add more CTAs around email and make that even more prominent, and you'll be ready to handle that because of the AI automation. But I took away from our meeting that you've been very pleased by how many of these inquiries are now shifted from phone to instantaneous email.
Yeah, if I could just really quickly just point out that kind of the big spike there in August into September is right around the time we did the CTAs, and kind of prior to having the AI out there, that would have, that definitely would have had some knock-on impacts on how quickly we're able to respond. But in normal times, that might have given us a bit of angst or a bit of anxiety, but certainly this was fantastic, and we've seen it continue to creep up. The big bang back last fall was when we did the CTAs, but certainly improvement and certainly ambitions to do more in the future.
Yep. Yeah. And then the other metric was coverage. So I want to explain this to the audience. So coverage is the percentage of inquiries that come in through email that are recognized by the AI. So inquiry comes in via email, AI looks at it and says, oh, I recognize you, and you are a question about how to get a refund. And so the coverage percentage is that percentage. So Megabus has now gotten up approaching 80% coverage. So now, does that mean that 80% are being resolved? No, that's not what that means, because some inquiries, we might recognize it, but we might not have the infrastructure in place with Megabus to resolve those. And I'll give you an example. If somebody has a cancellation question that is about their specific account, and we haven't integrated with Megabus's order system just yet, which we haven't just yet, then we'll recognize the question. We're just not able to resolve it. But what this means is, as we do more integration, as Megabus does more integrations of their Netomi into their customer information system, as an example, then we can recognize and resolve that in real time via the AI. And so the 80% is really, it's like, that's our ceiling. Now we have to go in and put in all the infrastructure to then take advantage of the fact that we can recognize, over 80% of the inquiries coming in. So that's something that'll continue to go up, of course, asymptotically, as you approach, the 90s. But behind that, as in the future, when we connect up their, customer information system, theoretically speaking, then we'd actually be able to resolve a bigger and bigger percentage of these, of the coverage. So I hope I didn't lose the audience on that one. But suffice to say, up and to the right. Okay, so I have another poll question for everybody. And I just need to launch it. So let's launch the poll. So here's the poll. The question is about metrics. So which metrics are important to you guys? Obviously, we want to improve all of these, but the reality is, in our business planning meetings, we only talk about a certain percentage of those. We don't try to improve everything all at once. And different companies have different preferences about what maybe their CEO wants to track. So I'm curious as to if there's one that you most want to. Of course, you want to improve them all, but if you could just order. So what I'm seeing is a pretty even response. Now, okay, resolution time is starting to run out ahead of everything else. I actually thought CSAT score would be the one, but And I'll publish this as soon as I see this. Yeah, it looks like most people have. All right, I'll share these results. So this is interesting. Resolution time far and away is the metric that you would improve the most. And of course, I think we all understand that because, you know, resolution time is going to lead to ticket backlog count dropping. It's going to lead to higher CSAT. So it's probably this is probably a loaded question, but this is interesting. Okay, let me stop sharing that and close this window. So I'll pose this less as a question, guys, because you already answered it and I put it on here. But these are the types of things being automated. So for Megabus's businesses, everyone, these are the types of things that ended up being some of the most commonly automated use cases. And I have one more poll. Let me just put this out for everybody. Oh yeah, okay. This is a little bit more of a Netomi one, but if any of you would like a demo of the product, just go ahead and hit yes. It'll actually log who you are. No problem if the answer is yes or no, but I wanted to just make it easy for you there. Okay. So, all right, this is, for whatever reason, this is my favorite set of questions, but Letitia, I'll direct these at you, but Colin, jump in if you've got a comment. But what was the human impact of AI? You know, there's this age-old, you know, fear like, oh, you know, machines or computers are going to take my job. But you talked about the team being very receptive to this because things were, it was a tough situation you were in. So I wondered if you could just comment on that to the group.
Yeah, so when we implemented Netomi, we were, as the first bullet point states there, we were drowning in inquiries and tickets. And a lot of them were repetitive answers. So, you know, it was just a simple matter of pasting in a template, you know, sending it, moving on to the next one, pasting in the exact same template, sending it, moving on to the next one. So when we implemented Chuck, it was actually exciting for the team because it gave them a chance to stop feeling like a robot. I think that's what we talked about on our last session. They were able to feel like humans, and they were able to answer more complex situations and issues that the customers had. So Netomi took care of the simple stuff and the easy things, the things that our human agents, you know, can answer without even thinking about. You know, they're sitting there bored, basically copying, pasting, and sending. And now they're able to really focus and feel like they're customer service specialists. And, you know, they get to do all the complex research and you know, and the things that, you know, Chuck may not be able to do. So they loved it. It got all of the annoying inquiries out of the way for them and made way for them to really feel like they're doing something and helping customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish that I had remembered that quote, Letitia. It's like they want to stop feeling like robots. And it's funny because you get a bot so that your humans don't have to feel like robots. And for me, what that suggests, or saying it in a different way, is there are jobs that are just better done by the bots. Or not jobs, but inquiries that are just better handled by the bots. They can do it faster. They can do it, you know, instantaneously. And there's inquiries that are better handled with human touch. And I think the irony of this for anybody that has a fear like, oh gosh, it might take my job, it's actually going to make your job more rewarding. As you alluded to, you know, you can work on more interesting stuff instead of the same question. But also the way I like to think about it is it preserves the humans for the questions that need human touch. And so it saves, it's like a critical asset. This human touch on your team is a critical business asset that you need to apply judiciously. This allows you to apply it where you want it the most. So I think that's the story that sometimes gets forgotten, and I always love to highlight. So I'm glad that you shared that with us. Okay, I will keep us going here. All right. Oh yeah. Okay. So we're nearing the end here. So goals for phase two. You just want to, Colin or Letitia, you want to talk freeform about, you know, where you might take this. You don't have to say anything specific. These are things that are all just, you know, considerations. But would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, so right now it's everything we've done has been in English, but with our operation in Canada and you know, throughout the US, French in Canada, Spanish in the US is certainly something we want to be able to take advantage of, adding more use cases. So when we talked earlier about the data or all the inquiries that we had sent over to really map out what the most important use cases are, that we're really starting to see that shift, and for a good reason. That this time last year it was all about the impacts of COVID and how that's really changed my travel plans, and we're really starting to see a return towards normal. So I think we touched on it too as well, how easy it is for us to go in and add new topics as things like just general travel questions. Where do you go? How many bags can I bring? Things like that become more and more prominent. We can carry on from there. We have a big following on Facebook, so expanding our channels into Facebook messengers, we see an opportunity. And I think, as you covered on the coverage, what integrations are out there, whether it's with our sales, whether it's with our real-time tracking, where's my bus type information, lots of details there for the future. And so lots of opportunities, and we're excited to see where it goes as we focus on our return towards normal.
Yeah, and I think that API integration is the most exciting one, because then you get really personalized answers. It's like you get an answer for your situation. And I think, especially given the immediacy of travel plans, I think that'll be probably the one that makes the metrics go up and to the right the most of all, quite frankly. Letitia, anything to add to that? You don't, no obligation to, just wondering, anything more to add on that?
No, like you said, Greg and Colin, we're excited for the API integration piece. I think that's really going to advance. I think right now Chuck is answering about resolving 25% of the inquiries that come through, and correctly, because we do have a team that is QAing Chuck and just making sure that everything is going well and that the customer's responses are truly getting answered to the way that they're supposed to. But the next step for us, and which can really increase that 25%, is the API integration and going into our customer management system and being able to see who the customer is, who, the trip, and just answering specifics on that trip is going to boost up that resolution rate. I mean, who knows? We'll see. I mean, but 25% in and of itself is great, but I'd like to see that number go up.
Yeah, and I'll draw a parallel here. These goals for the future, this really illustrates what we do with our customers. We get you started quickly, and then we build over time. And then going back to the WestJet reference, who's been a customer for a few years, over the period of 2+ years with them, we've rolled out new channels, new languages, new API integrations over time. And we actually topped out during the spike of COVID. We topped out at resolving 87% of WestJet's inquiries that were coming in via the channels we were covering. So 80%, we were able to cover 87% of the inquiries that we receive in the Netomi solution. So now that doesn't mean everybody's going to get that. What that means is, when you work with us for a few years, we grow the footprint, we continue to tune it, that you can really top out at really high numbers when you have these huge spikes, and that's when you need it the most. And that's what WestJet experienced. And this is what, Letitia, you're talking to, is like, hey, we're on this journey together, and who knows if it gets to 87% or something short of that, but we know that it can get a lot bigger based on some of these channels that we see on this slide. Okay, guys, I think that's it. And we might just go into the Q&A section. What I will say is, for everybody out there, we're going to have another webinar. This is with the head of customer service at DBS. It's on May 19th. So I'm just going to very quickly make this really easy for everybody. Before we go into the Q&A, I will launch this poll. The poll is basically, do you want to sign up for the webinar? So this is just an easy way for you to do that. I'll just leave that up. So let's go into our Q&A. We've had a number of questions come in. And so I'm just moving windows around here so I can see these. Jason asks, and this is for the Megabus team, would love to know how Megabus measures ghost volume and how they know AI specifically helped reduce it. So was that more something you tracked qualitatively, Letitia, or is there a quantitative way? I mean, I guess you could really just track how many times they emailed and how many times they called.
So yeah, we get a report called repeat caller report where we can see how many times one phone number has called into our center. And that in and of itself is the ghost volume. And then also when we answer inquiries via our email system, we always check to see if if the customer has emailed us previously by entering their email address into the search functionality and to see if we have any other contacts from that customer. So that's pretty much how we know that, you have one customer that's running around in circles trying to get an answer is through repeat caller reports.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm just looking down at the list here. I'll continue to rattle off questions for you guys. This is for you guys again. Do you use Chuck to collect information or enrich queries before handing off to the agent? Or is it only for resolution? Does Netomi augment human effort or replaces it, or both? So I think either you could answer that or I can answer that, but I'll give you first shot.
Yeah, from what I understand of the question, yeah, we do at times need to collect more information from a customer before we can answer. So we will have Chuck ask for that additional information and then he can hand off to a human. So there's a certain percentage of inquiries that we do have to do that for. But there are other percentage of inquiries where Chuck can just answer and resolve and close the inquiry himself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll add to that. This is Karin, you've asked this question. We can do a lot of things. We can do full resolution if that's possible, which of course is the ideal. We can do gather mode, which is what you just described. We gather information and then hand it to the agent for resolution. Makes the agent much more efficient. We also have review mode. So what this means is we can actually receive the inquiry and then suggest an answer to the agent, and the agent can either use the answer as is, not use the answer at all, or use the answer and edit it slightly. So we call that review mode. So it's not just about resolution, it's about making the agents that much more efficient. Okay, Rodolfo, to implement a similar solution, do I need an IT tech specialist? I think I'll take this one. No, the answer is no, you don't. And I think Letitia spoke to this pretty well. This is a pretty easy process to get set up on. You don't have to do coding. Our team handles the heavy lifting for you. So you don't need an IT tech specialist. Okay, John asks, what percentage of tickets per week, month, quarter can Netomi solve for your company? So John, it very much depends on the nature of your business and how repeatable the types of questions are that come in. We're not even going to sign a contract if we can't implement or resolve, more than 20% of your inquiries. It's just, we just know that we can, and you're better served by not if you really don't have the repeatability. But what we see is our customers are, between 20 and 87%. I think, even sort of early in the process, Megabus is already getting 25%. And we know that's going to go up a lot for the reasons we gave before. And then on the other end of the spectrum is what I said about WestJet. We work with them for 2.5 years, and we were able to handle a spike of 87% of their inquiries during COVID. And so, that's a pretty broad range. Even something in the 25% can create a massive business impact. And so we think the ROI is very self-evident given the types of numbers that we've been able to achieve with our customers. Just looking at the list. Can you speak to how Netomi might assist with retention efforts, customers who reach out with the intention of closing their account? Yes, Jason, you can really build any flow that you want. We've got a visual workflow builder that allows you just to graphically map out a flow. Either we can build it for you or you guys can self-serve. It's pretty easy to use. And so a customer comes in and says, I want to cancel. You can lead them through a custom flow, which asks certain questions and really finds out what their dissatisfaction was, and then presents maybe a custom offer to them that is uniquely tuned to entice them to stay on board. And very, very easy to do. So yes, Netomi absolutely applies to customer retention as is. We already talked about ghost volume. Let me see if there's more. For Netomi, do these AI tools work with any support ticketing tools? So yes, we have a number that we're integrated with all the big tools. So Zendesk is probably the most common one. Salesforce, Freshdesk, Gladly, and a few others. So really all the big ones we're already integrated with, so it works right out of the box. Okay, Colin, we don't want to leave you out here. We haven't asked you a question, so here's one for you. How, how do you measure the ROI of Netomi? We're going to totally put you on the spot here.
Right. So I think the simple answer is, we look at, what we've been doing recently is looking at our, the cost of our customer service operation, and seeing how the channel shift to email and away from our agents, what that's looked like. I guess ideally what we would like to do is look at, things like customer lifetime value and retention rates and the impact that's playing. But the challenge there is with, the COVID world going on, our retention rates are very out of whack in general. So that's kind of where we want to get to. But I think if we look at, adding, the cost behind AI, are we seeing an equal or greater value in channel shift and what's coming from there, with all the benefits of improved customer experience, customer lifetime value, and all that. The first part of that equation, I certainly think we can say, yeah, we're seeing that, and undoubtedly there's more coming from elsewhere. It's just really cloudy right now with all the different things happening in the transportation world.
Truth. Okay, Brody asks a question. How do you determine what types of questions are the most common and which can be answered automatically by AI? Was this done by discussing with support agents directly or through something provided by Netomi? So Brody, what we do is we export the ticket data out of your agent desk. So if you've got Zendesk, click, you can export the data into a CSV file. We pull it into our AI tool, our historical ticketing analysis tool. And the AI then analyzes all of your ticket data. It's like your actual data based on your business and your business situation. So you can't get any more accurate than that. And we analyze that, and it clusters. That's the word we use. You get clusters of different questions. And then those clusters, you go in and go ahead and you go in and just name those. So these are all questions. These are 25 different ways that we saw somebody ask, can I cancel my account? These are 50 different ways that somebody asks, how do I get a return or an exchange? So all of that is done automatically. And as I mentioned before, that's in contrast to some of the tools and some of the offerings out there where they ask you, like, what are your top 10 questions? And that is subject to, recency bias. It's subject to people's memories. It's subject to people leaving the company and new people coming in who don't have the corporate knowledge in their head. And so, you really want to make sure that somebody's got an AI-based tool that analyzes your existing ticket data, because you're going to get, not only are you going to get a more accurate clustering, you're going to handle corner cases as well. And so even the wackiest ways somebody might ask, you're initially getting that into your training early on. So it's going to be much more robust. Okay, I've got a long list of questions. I'm trying to see if there's any. Okay, I think we'll answer the rest of these via email, and I think we'll just land this plane. So, Colin, Letitia, this was awesome. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your insights and your authenticity in answering the questions. Anything to leave us with?
No, just thanks for having us. Happy to be here, and we're excited about the start of our partnership and looking forward to see where it goes next.
Yeah, me too. All right. Everybody be well and be safe.